Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm in my old ranch truck today picking up a special package from town. It's there on the back of the trailer. It's the body for the Harbor Blue 69 Harbor Blue Highboy build we're doing. So I finally got the donor cab and body back from paint. We're in the old 69 Highboy ranch truck picking it up. It's back there in the mirror, you can see it. So we're going to get back to the shop and show you what it's all about. Well guys, here it is. Just got it unloaded off the trailer, fresh out of the paint shop. I still have to do all the detailing and everything on the firewall. We didn't paint the firewall just because it's so nice and original. I actually cleaned up part of the cab mount here just to see how nice it was going to look, and it looked cleaned up really nice. Kind of hard to tell there in the sun, but yeah, we got the exterior repainted in the Harbor Blue. We did the inside of the bed as well. Got a little dusty on the ride home. And so yeah, we didn't do any of the interior or anything like that. That's all original. Since this was such a low mile nice original truck, we left all that alone. So in here I still have to detail it and everything. Obviously I didn't want to do that before we did paint, but nice original gauge cluster, nice original seat. So yeah, I have a lot of work ahead of me, a lot of detailing and cleaning. And on the underside I did some test panels to see what it was going to clean up like right there on the floor and right there, and it's going to turn out really nice once I finally get to clean this thing up. So you know, everything's just kind of grimy from not being cleaned since it was new probably, but the primer under here is just absolutely perfect. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to turn out. So yeah, we still have some work to do on the paint. It hasn't been color sanded, wet sanded, anything like that. There's a little bit of orange peel in it. I'm going to see if I can get that out of it, and we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully I can make it look really clean and nice and sharp, and we'll see how it all looks when we get it put together. So let's go get after it. Well guys, I have the truck in the shop and I've been doing a little bit of work to it. I have the tailgate on the truck here, and you know, the latches and everything hooked up. So all that's working. Get it open for you. So tailgate is on. That's a nice milestone because it really helps tie the back end of the truck together. I've also stripped out the interior, getting it ready to transfer over, and cleaned up the inside here, and it cleaned up very nice. This is all original here, so this is all in really nice shape. Of course, it was dirty when I took the seat out, so this is after I cleaned it, but it turned out really nice. We are going to have to move the fuel tank plates over here to the highboy position. So over here we're going to have some blank holes. I'm going to put a rubber plug in there on the top and bottom just to plug up that hole. And I have some brand new highboy plates to put over here. So we'll do that once it gets on the highboy chassis. I also have the dash pad pulled off because I'm going to put a new one on it. The old one was all cracked up. You can see it over here. Not in terrible shape, but it does have a bunch of cracks on it. So I'm going to go ahead and dye up a new blue one and put it on there. So that requires you take the glove box out and the gauge cluster out and access the bolts that go right here so I can put a new one on. The floor mat is, I want to keep it intact because this is an original floor mat. And the aftermarket ones just fit terribly and look terrible in my opinion. So I really want to try to save this original factory floor mat. And I have to get the transmission out because I'm using this transmission in the truck. So I have to get it out and clean it and inspect it and swap over the highboy tail shaft. And I've been struggling with how to do this without destroying the floor mat, because the boot is under the floor mat here. A lot of people put the boot on top of the floor mat, but this is actually how Ford did it. The boot is on the bottom, and then there's just a cutout in the floor mat. So to get the shifter out, I need to pull the boot out to get to the locking retainer deal for the transmission. So it's either lift up the cab just a little bit so I can get to it underneath, right here on the top of the transmission from underneath, or pull the floor mat out in one piece. And I think I'm going to try to do that and try to pull it out over the gear stick, and then I'll be able to access everything. So once I have some help here in the shop, I'll try to do that and really avoid. Right here is where a lot of times they like to tear, so you have to be really careful when you're like trying to fold this up and pull it out from underneath that firewall pad. But anyway, gonna be really delicate with that. But that's all going together pretty good, I think. I did a little bit of test cleaning on the firewall. It's gonna clean up really nice. So right here is where I kind of cleaned it up. So all that's original paint as well. So that's gonna be nice to have nice, clean, original paint firewall under there. Over here on the driver's side, nice and clean. The under dash is on this thing. It's just really nice and clean. So you can see that better. See, I don't know, that light's kind of bright, but you get the idea. The original blue steering wheel is actually very nice as well. No cracks and stuff, so that's nice. A lot of times those steering wheels do not last. But anyway, the major thing I want to do to this before I pull it off is I gotta get that transmission out. And also, there's a little bit of orange peel in the paint, so I'm going to try my best to wet sand that out. I am definitely not a paint professional. The body shop would do it for me, but I just don't want to have to wait on them, because they're awful busy in there, and they get tied up, and this kind of classic stuff they're doing gets kind of pushed to the side, because they got stuff that's people's daily drivers that come in that they got to get out for people. So I understand that. And they said they'd do it for me. He wasn't really happy with how the clear coat laid on this thing, and said he would wet sand it or redo it. But I think I'm just going to try to wet sand it, because if I screw it up, we'll just redo it like he said. I've already been working on the fender, trying to do practice on stuff that would be easiest to redo, and this fender I think would be the most easiest to redo. So did a little bit of wet sand in here, and this is kind of the after I did 5,000 grit. So I'm going to polish this up. I'm going to do a cut and then a polish and see how it turns out. And if I think that turned out nice, I'll start on the rest of the cab. And I want to do that before I transfer it over, just because any of that, there'd be less cleanup basically. So once I get that done, we'll start transferring parts and get the cab sit on the Highboy frame. So that'll be the money shot. But for now, I'm just going to work on that transmission and see what I can do about this paint. Well guys, I got the sanding, the wet sanding all done on the bed. I haven't done the cab yet. I'm going to wait until I pull the bed off so I can get to the back of the cab nice and easy, not worry about trying to get in behind the bed and everything. Might as well just do it while the bed's off of here. So I got both sides of the bed done, and I have buffed it. I haven't done any polishing, just a compound buff on the bed side, and it turns out really nice. So we have really nice smooth paint now. So that was the goal with the wet sand. So we still have a final polish to do on this, but I'll wait to do that once it's on the Highboy chassis and we got everything assembled, just in case, you know, you rub up against it and get some swirl marks or anything from cleaning it off and everything. So we'll save the polishing until it's all done, but the buffing turned out really nice, I thought, and the paint is turning out really nice. So we still have the cab yet to do. I have all the bolts off of the bed. Since this is such a rust-free bed, all the bolts came loose. They weren't rusty at all, so that's nice. I have the fuel tanks. It has these saddle tanks that were under the on the outside of the frame. I have both of those off because they would fit between the frame, basically. So the bed is right now, it is ready to come off. I have the bed harness unhooked back here. So I'm going to get it backed up to the lift, and I'm going to pick it up. I have to pick it up from the support braces under the cab, or the bed, because the fuel tank got rid of this cross member here, or the brace that holds the bedside, so it's kind of floppy without that fuel tank there. So I'm going to go up under here and pick up on the bed floor itself instead of the side of the bed, just so we don't have any problems with that bed wanting to bow in and buckle or anything like that. So I'm going to get after that, and I'll show you what the underside of this bed looks like when we get up in the air. Okay, well, I got the bed off. of the truck here. It went pretty smooth. Right now I'm doing a little work on the back of the bed here, and just some overspray and stuff from getting from being painted, trying to clean that up a little bit. But I thought this was actually interesting, good comparison. This is the color that it was painted when I got it. It had a repaint prior, probably in the 80s, I was guessing. And it is a much brighter blue, kind of has more purple in it. I don't know how to describe that, but you can see some of that, see on this edge here, they got some. It just doesn't match the Harbor Blue at all. So I'm glad we did repaint that, because we were originally talking about just buffing the outside because it was heavily oxidized, you know, cutting down that oxidation layer and bringing back the paint, because it was single stage, which is probably why it was oxidized. And I'm glad we didn't do that, because we were going to repaint the front end, and we probably would have repainted it Harbor Blue, and it wouldn't have matched even remotely close. So I'm glad we didn't do that and waste all that time. But this the bed panel here, I'm kind of iffy on repainting it, because this kind of stuff, I want to get rid of it. But again, you're never going to see it, but I also want it to look nice. So I'm going to work on it some more and see what I come up with. But while I was cleaning off some of that overspray, I did find some of the assembly line markings here. We have an 83233. We also have a 7 right here. So they did put markings on the back of the bed here. I think it was just to know which bed goes with which truck or something of that nature. There's also markings on the firewall and the top of the hood. We didn't have those, unfortunately. I'm going to go look at the original Highboy cab and see if we have any of those. But I might throw those back on there just for, I mean, you're not going to be able to see them, but just for the next guy, maybe he'll be able to have those markings. Maybe he'll know what they are, because I don't know what they mean, but they're just kind of some assembly line markings. But I wanted to take the bed up and show you the underside. Okay, well, have the bed up in the air. So the underside of this bed is very rust-free. There's no rust at all, which is nice. I already knew that, but just showing it off to you guys. The red oxide primer is very visible under here. This is just a test spot I cleaned, and it does have a little bit of showing some age. There's a little bit of surface rust poking through here, you know, where the primer has gotten thin, because it's not very thick layer to begin with. And even over here on the bedside, we have nice primer over here that I cleaned up. So I was debating whether I wanted to paint the underside of the bed or not, and I think I'm going to try to clean all this as best as I can and see how it looks. I think it's going to look pretty good, because, you know, just going off of this test panel here I think it's going to look pretty good. It may not be perfect, but it'll be original, and I like original. A problem we have is the tailgate harness, not tailgate harness, the bed harness. It did get a little bit of overspray on it. It was hanging down, and I didn't tell him to not paint it. So it did get a little overspray. I'm going to see if I can clean that up. It's not in very good shape anyway. I was kind of hoping it was in better shape. It's been so long since I saw it, but it's had some splices and stuff in here for some, what do you call it? Trailer plugs. And I'm going to see what I can do there. I think you can buy that new. I might just buy a new one. The over here on the frame, I was planning on using this frame harness and pulling it off of here, but it's kind of the same shape. It's not as nice as I was hoping it was. Right there we have some wire nuts right there on the harness, and I think this was going up to his camper. He had a plug up in the bed for his camper. I'm going to see how that looks. We might just end up using the Highboy harness, because I know it doesn't have any splices in it. It's not as in great a shape. We might rewrap it and see what we can do there. But for now, I am going to just continue working on the back of this bed and decide if I'm going to repaint it or not. I got to get some more of this stuff off here. I mean, it will probably be just fine the way it is, but I'm kind of getting carried away with this build, so I might as well get carried away with the stuff you can't see. So I'm going to get after it, guys, and I'll fill you guys in when I make a decision and get something done. Well, I have our MP435 out of the donor truck here. It has the two-wheel drive tail housing on it, but over here I have a four-wheel drive transmission. We're going to pull out that tail housing and use that because it has the spots for the four-wheel drive shifter. But I'm going to go ahead and paint it with the two-wheel drive housing on it, so it's all masked off already. A lot of guys, biggest question I get is where do I get my paint to paint the transmissions and transfer cases and stuff? I don't actually get it anywhere. I actually make it. A little bit more orange than just the flat red primer. So if you just painted it with the primer, like a lot of people think, it's just too red. So I added just a little bit of tint orange, so it matches. It's pretty close. This is kind of faded. I get as close as I can. It's not exactly perfect, but once it dries, it gets very close. Over here, I can show you what it looks like when it's all dried. So has a little bit of a shine to it, but that flat primer works pretty good. So I think it looks all right. It's probably a lot more durable than the factory ones were, because a lot of times that paint is missing. This one actually has quite a bit of it left. But anyway, I'm going to get this thing painted up and get it stabbed behind the engine right here. And then once I do that, I'll pull this over and we'll set the bed on this frame to get it out of the way. So I didn't want to move it without having that transmission in there and having that engine solidly mounted, because that thing bouncing around, I didn't want that board that the engine's sitting on to fall off. So anyway, I'm going to get that knocked out and we'll see what that bed looks like on the frame. Well guys, I got the transmission all finished up, so the paint turned out fantastic, I thought. So here's the part number for the four-wheel drive, 69 four-wheel drive. I believe this is from 69 to 70 or 71. I would have to actually look back at my notes, but they use this part number for a couple years anyway. So 9N3Y is the four-wheel drive transmission, and 9N3U is the two-wheel drive transmission that I normally see, the part number for the two-wheel drive transmission, but this one was actually 9N3Z, which I haven't seen before, so I don't know what the Z meant. But anyway, got the four-wheel drive tail housing back installed on this transmission. So we have the spots for the four-wheel drive shifter, which I have here. I was just making sure everything was going to go together good, so that bolts in there. We'll do that once it's in the truck, because I'll leave that off while we put the cab down and get it out of the way. But still have the output yoke, or the output seal to put in, so we'll do that later because I don't have it yet. And right now I'm going to get this thing installed in the chassis so the engine is held up good, good enough to where I can feel confident in rolling it out and bumping around without having to worry about that engine falling down. So I'm going to get this thing installed, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, well, I got the transmission installed. It didn't go too bad. It once we got it in the splines of the clutch, it didn't want to go in the pilot bearing. And what I ended up having to do was we pulled on the clutch fork here and applied pressure to the clutch and released the disc. And it must have not been aligned just perfect. A lot of times those plastic tools you put in there, they're not made great enough, so your pilot bearing can be off slightly. So that's what this one was, unfortunately. But released some pressure on the clutch as I was pushing in on the transmission, and it slid right in, so it got aligned perfectly there. So after we got that done, it didn't give us any more problems. So I have the cross member in with the new transmission mount in, and now that engine is held up really solidly. Before, I just had a block of wood under this cross member here holding up the back of the engine, so all it was holding up the engine really was the pedestals there. But now it has the mount there on the back of the transmission, so it's nice and solid. So I am going to pull this. I got the cab and the old frame out of the way. I'm going to pull that frame under here and set the bed down on the back of this one and get it bolted down and kind of semi-installed, so mainly so I can get it out of the way, and then I'm going to start working on that cab. Well, here you go, guys. I have the bed set down on the chassis, and it turned out really nice, I thought. It's kind of hard to see. I should have videoed this when I had it outside of the shop, but I think it's looking pretty all right, in my opinion anyway. The back end is sitting a little high, but you know, we still have a lot of weight to sit on here, so I'm expecting that to come down a few inches, but it is a highboy after all, so sitting up a little high is nothing to complain about. The one thing I was really happy with was the originality of the primered bed floor with the nice shiny new black frame. That turned out really nice, I thought. So it's kind of hard to see. It's kind of pretty dark under here, but we'll get better shots of that later on. Also, was really happy with the way the transmission turned out. I've done several of these already, but with the part number and everything on the transmission, it just looks nice and clean and fresh and new. So that's the goal there. A lot of people ask about the part number. You know, that's like I said earlier in the video. That is the part number for the four-wheel drive transmission for 69 for sure, and I think they used it in 70 and maybe even 71. But anyway, guys, I think we're going to call that quits on this video here. I don't want to make it too long since we got that bed set on the thing. It's the frame. It's a real big milestone with the truck build. It's actually starting to go together, and I have the cab over here. I have to start working on this thing, get it ready to set on the cab or on the frame, to get the cab ready to set on the frame. So we'll do that with another episode. So we'll call this one quits. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you're enjoying this build, my Harbor Blue Highboy build. And like this video if you like this build, and subscribe so you can see more of it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.